beer finish, Cascade draft, because we're in Tassie. This is DELTANINE, Tasmanian Hybrid Customs, and I'm Jim, and I'm going to have a drink. Alright. Best street decks available 2021. It was going to be 2020. Now it's 2021. So I've got in front of me what I think are the best street decks available. Let's just jump right into it. This is the North Horizon deck. 6.22. I mean 6 inches wide. That way. 22. That way. I could prove it, measure it, but I'm not going to. It's a very nice deck. It's made by a company called North, and here I am swaying everywhere. It's a result of the rum, obviously. Company called North. Not a rider-owned company, but a very good company nonetheless. Supporting a lot of good riders at the moment. We'll probably talk more specifically about riders on each brand later, but let's have a look. So, features of this deck. Features of this deck that I like, first of all, the neck. You've got a really strong neck, I think, in this sort of design. It's sort of inset and welded. We'll talk a bit about welding versus other options later. All these ones in front of us are welded. So this is welded neck. It's just a good solid deck. Comfortable, pretty well balanced. You know, I'm not saying it's great, but it's very, very good. I like the flat bottom. Should hold it this side, shouldn't I? I like the flat bottom. It's really nice for grinds, and as much as people are sort of tending away from that at the moment, I still like it. Because of the other purpose of doing this gig, which is to do sort of custom scooters, and painting a flat bottom is a lot easier than painting one with cutouts and stuff. So I don't want this to go away because it gives you that option of doing good custom graphics. I like the graphics. I assume that's done by laser or something like that. We're going to hand paint things, and you know, flat bottom is great. So this has that. These dropouts are actually interesting. I'm not sure what quite to say about them, really. If I look at them just in comparison to the other decks in front of me, they're a little bit different. What's special about them? I like how they sit really flush against the deck, and I like how they're round over the back and just sort of make it like it's a really nice curve, and it's all it all sort of flows. I mean, in a way, like, you know, it might just be one piece, basically. I kind of like that about them. What I don't like about them is when you ride them, you wear through them quickly, and you can't buy any more. So what are you doing? You fucking kill them. They're done. So you just got to chuck it. You just got to chuck them out and ride it without fucking dropouts anymore. It's annoying. So North and any other company that has scooters with dropouts, especially ones that sort of like, you know, come out and are replaceable, maybe like sell replacement ones. Bit of advice. Right, on the other side, let's have a look. We've got this fender here. It's not a brake. It doesn't flex at all. It's actually quite a nice fender. Very simple sort of design. Bit of curve to it. 2 bolts. Just goes right into it. Holds itself. So, you know, just one Allen key will do it. So actually a very nice design. I hate when you get the fenders where you have to hold them with a wrench underneath and do the Allen key, and it's really freaking awkward because you constantly got to take the Allen key out because there's a thing sticking up and it doesn't let it go past. And so yeah, anyway, so like this, it's good. I like those little innovations that save you hassle. Alright, so deck can run either 30mm wide wheels or 24mm wide wheels. I can't imagine it doing 12 standard unless you rig up a thing with bearing spacers or something like that. I'm not sure if this came... I have a feeling this deck came with spacers for both kinds of wheels. So I'm not going to be too accusing of North at this point of that. I think I've just lost the other ones. I'm not going to accuse them, but a lot of companies are guilty of not providing enough spacers for variation of the wheels, and we'll sort of get into that in a moment. So I'm going to put this one down, go on to the next one. Very nice deck. Thank you, North. I recommend that highly. If you like North scooters, grab one of them. You probably can't anymore, let's kind of face it. They're probably all sold out. That's the 6 wide version. I know there's a few other versions at the moment. So there's the new John Devron version. There's the new Badger Clit version. Yes, if you don't know very well, there's a guy who calls himself Badger Clit. So, yeah, it's a good name. But good decks too. They're not 6 wide though, so I prefer the 6 wide or above, and that's sort of what limited me to doing this video as well, because I mean there's so many good decks, so I sort of had to, you know, pick a factor that ruled out some, and so I said, all right, well, street decks, you want a certain level of width. We've gone 6 wide or above, and that's what this is. So you've got the 6 wide North Horizon to start off with. Next one we're going to look at. What's a good side to look at first? Flat bottom again of the... This is the Native. This is the Native Advent version 2. I could say a lot about Native, really. Native is a very, very innovative company. I mean, same sort of design of the neck there, with that inset welded in. The North's actually welded just as like a square around it. This is welded right in against it and has a cutout in here with welding down into it, which is only going to increase the strength. Like I said, very, very innovative company. This would have been tested and tested and tested and tested. They would have snapped a lot of decks before they came to this design. So like, I really appreciate that sort of innovation. Everything, you can tell, everything with these has been done so deliberately. And North are the kings of compatibility, really. There's nothing that you... North, I just said North. Native are the kings of compatibility, really. There's nothing you can't run with Native stuff. Right, so if we switch it over and look, these dropouts, they don't sit flush like the North ones. They're just tubes. So they're just sort of like, you know, one extruded tube cut into a couple of pieces, and there's a little hole in there to stick an Allen key in there so it doesn't rotate while you're putting your wheel on. However, they're good enough and they do the job, I guess. And the whole point, like I was saying, it's the compatibility with this deck. So what Native provides is enough spaces that you can run anything. So you can run your 24mm wheels, you can run your 30mm wheels, and you can run your 12 standard wheels all on this 8mm axle, which is so clever, because why isn't everybody doing that? All you got to do is chuck in a little spacer and you can run everything on one normal axle. So it doesn't matter if you're using skateboard bearings or 12 standard bearings. You're right either way. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, just do that. Just every company provide that. That way everyone can ride their wheels and they don't have to fucking mock up all these stupid little, you know, bits of metal that you go to the hardware store and you're shoving in like little washers and stuff like that to fill out the space. It's annoying. You know, you want to like a proper fitting professional setup. Companies sort of have to provide that if they want to call themselves a pro scooter company. Cater for pros who could be running anything. So Native is right on top of that. Now turn it over here. We've got this this fender, which is the very fender that I ride personally. Few reasons. One is it's got a little housing. I can't see it. I'm not going to take it off. But it's got a little housing underneath it where you sit the nuts, and so as the bolts go through, they just sit there. You don't have to hold them in with anything at all. So besides the fender 6-wide deck, this is the Advent version 2. This is the biggest they come, 6x23. They've released a new version since I got this, which is the Advent Refined. They also still produce this as a separate thing. There's a few differences. This has a fully flat bottom. Again, I like the fully flat bottom because I'm going to paint an awesome graphic on this. Actually, I'm taking credit. My wife is going to paint an awesome graphic on this. And yeah, so I like this version still. The Refined has a sort of a channel running up the middle. It's just a slight one. They get a lot out of it though. There's massive weight reduction with the Refined one. So I would like to have one of those on this table. They also come 6.25 wide, which is a nice little addition as well to the collection. Native again coming through with like every size, and well, you know, a lot of sizes. So I wonder often, like, you know, how do they manage to do it? Like they've got every conceivable size that you'd want in every configuration. They're a very good option. Australian company too. So you want to support Australian, buy something local, maybe get a Native scooter. Shall we move on? I kind of want to dwell on Native, but I'm only talking about decks. They've got so many good things. We'll talk about them another time though. So, all right, we're going to move on. Now, this thing I probably don't even have to introduce. If you know, you know. This is the Tilt Theory version 3. We'll face this around this way. Get a nice close-up of the Tilt Theory version 3 head tube. This is the 6-wide version. The 6-wide version of the Theory 3 can be identified by its cutout in here. Now, I've been riding scooters with cutouts for a long time. I like flat bottom, but cutout doesn't make that much difference. And they really emphasize that with Tilt because they wanted to reduce weight for their larger deck. And they emphasized that it doesn't make that much difference. Now, I've never heard anyone actually outline what the difference is for having a flat bottom deck or a cutout in your deck. And so I'm going to. So out of these decks so far, this is the first one that has a cutout, and the only one that's going to have a cutout actually. So the difference to me is if it's flat and you're going over, say, a rail, and there's like, you know, a little bolt in it or a little imperfection in it, or, you know, it's crooked or something like that, you're not going to catch if it's flat bottom. You're sort of just going to slide over it and the deck's going to find its way over the contours. With this, it can sort of get caught in the cutout. That's the difference to me. And so if you really, really don't like falling and smashing your face into concrete, there is a reason to have a preference for a flat bottom or a narrow or a sort of shallow channeled flat bottom as opposed to something like this. Most of the time it's not going to matter. If you're just at a skate park, they're designed pretty well to handle anything that you're going to throw at this. If you're in the streets, there's imperfections. You know how it is. You know, I reckon flat bottom for the streets. Anyhow, other features of this are, first of all, I guess the first reaction is that it is insanely light. To think that this deck and, say, that deck are the same size, you know, if I had my eyes closed, I wouldn't believe you. This tilt deck is just insanely light, insanely well balanced. Again, like the native in a way, they've put a lot of thought into this. They've put a lot of sort of innovation and testing into getting the balance and the feel of it just right. And it is. It's great. It's like so light. Don't know, and just also the other thing about it has its unique little aspects. Like let's go to this side. We've got a welded on fender, as opposed to all the 2-bolt fenders. You've got a welded on fender. Downside of that is if you want to switch it out for another one or a brake or something like that, you can't. The big positive of it is try breaking that off. I've snapped more, so many fenders. Just from, your foot gets caught on, they get caught in your shoe, and you sort of wrench it out, and it bends up and snaps off. That's never coming off. If you want a good fender, and it's going to be up the length of the wheel as well. So some of those shorter kind of fenders, none of them are really here on the table, but I've got a certain one in mind that I don't like very much because they're very, very short, and foot touches the wheel and fucks you up. Anyway, I like this a lot. It's welded on. You look, dropouts, welded. So like the whole argument there of having the replaceable dropouts that no one sells any fucking replacements to. Tilt's gone, all right, well, we're not going to sell any replacements to them either, but we'll just weld them on. And that way, well, it's sort of the same material as the deck, I imagine. And it's a lot stronger than the other version. So I really like it. It's a good innovation, and there's nothing else like it. Nobody else has tried that. As for wheel sizes, 8mm axle, nothing else will fit on it. It's got spaces to fit your 24s, otherwise take them out and you can fit your 30s. Fits up to 120mm diameter, whereas I reckon you could probably get 125s on either of the other two decks that I've mentioned before. At a guess, haven't tried the North. I know you can do it with the native though. I've tried the native for sure. Can't get 125s on the tilt though. Pretty much only Ethics making those with 12 standard bearings anyway. So if you're riding this deck, that's probably not your wheel. But pretty good compatibility. I like that it came with the spaces. At least they're doing that. That's nice. It'd be good again to see some kind of 12 standard spacer coming out. Just to give people the option. Because, not that I'm talking about wheels, because I'm not talking about wheels, and I said, we're only going to talk about decks, but I think Ethic make the best wheels, and I like 12 standard bearings because they're a scooter-specific bearing. Enough said about wheels. Right, moving on. This is the first of the signature decks that I'm going to talk about. This thing here is the Maxim Bazid deck by AO, being Alpha Omega, for those not aware of that. Alright, let's think of some features of this. So, I'm actually a bit of a long time AO fan, so I'll give you the bit of the backstory. The first AO deck I had was the Quadrum 3, and I liked AO before that, but the first time I could sort of afford and justify a new deck, was the Quadrum 3. I liked it because it was 23 long. I think I was riding like 19.5 before that. This is 23 long as well. Pretty standard size for your street decks. Yeah, I really liked it. It was 23 long. The length, I think, is a massive thing for it because I feel like it just gives you a bit more room to like sort of walk up and down the deck. Like I think that is something to scootering, like just having that comfort. Like because I don't care about the weight of it really. Like I mean, look at me. Like, you know, do I care if my scooter is half a kilo heavier or lighter? I don't care if I wanted to, you know, I'll lose weight off me. You know, I don't need to lose weight off my scooter. So the fact that something like this is a bit heavier doesn't really matter. Like I'm saying, it's the length more than the width. So AO Quadrum was the first one I had. AO Quadrum has a different kind of head tube to this, and this is a deck that stemmed off their other line, which is called the Sachem, and it had this kind of neck. This sort of twin, I don't know what you call them. Two pieces of metal coming down there. They're pretty narrow. They're welded straight onto the deck. And I haven't actually ridden this. I haven't ridden any of this style of deck. I'm guessing it's not as strong as the Quadrum one, which was a lot more like, say, the first two I looked at with that inset thing, but then it was stronger again because it was big and solid, and I reckon it wasn't a big seller because of the weight, because that neck would have added quite a bit of weight, say, compared to this one, and I reckon that's why over, however many years it's been since they've ruled out the Quadrum line, they've gone with this. I do like it. It is cool. I also like the fact that there's space sort of down the side here, as opposed to which one has one in the front? Oh, this one has one in the front. That one right there. It's cut out in the front as opposed to in the sides. The thing being, you almost have to put a tilt tomahawk fork in there, don't you? Because it's got the little tomahawk down the side. And because I was always like, well, why would they put it down the side? Because the hole was always in the front and you couldn't see the tomahawk graphic unless you sort of turned your bars out. And that was the cool sort of thing about tilt tomahawk forks, until you got this, and then you've got a space for the little tomahawk. So, I don't know, it almost begs for it, doesn't it? So I guess the main thing about this deck, coming back to it, is Bazid himself, French scooter rider. Go and check out his videos. He's now rides for AO. Not sure who he rode for before. He wasn't on Envy, was he? He was on Ethic, I think. He must have been on Ethic. Now on AO though. Got some very good videos out with AO and some other ones, and on Instagram, and constantly doing things. So go and check out Maxime Bazid. If anyone can actually tell me what the hell this means, that would be brilliant. Like, I've never seen any reference to it. Like, it hasn't really been raised since the deck's been released. I've never seen any sort of commentary on it on Instagram or on YouTube or on anything. So if anyone knows what Bazid's little, I don't know, is it Arabic? I don't even know what it is. Is it gibberish? Hell, I don't know. Like, it could just be a squiggly line for all I know. Like, I can't read that. Cool graphic, because I had some issue with his bones or something. Didn't seem like the type of person who'd be jumping down sets of 17 stairs and grinding handrails down them and things like that, because he had some condition with his bones where they'd break extra easily. So he's got this bone thing, and for the graphic to represent that, and I don't know, it's an interesting story behind it. We will do a bit more of a specific feature on the guy himself. Like I said, just covering decks. I'm the type of person who would just talk forever on this stuff, so really trying to limit myself here. And we'll talk about the guy himself later. But the deck's very nice, pretty cool graphic. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to customize this one yet. I'm not going to paint over the graphic. flat bottom, but maybe we'll add to it around it, add some colour or something like that. It'll be interesting to see where we go with this one. Now, alright, other good features of this are, besides the flat bottom, the reasonably good weight saving neck and head tube. Got an interesting kind of fender. It just looks cool, like just the contours of it, the curvature. It's very light. There's nothing much to it. I'd snap it in a day, I reckon. Yeah, I don't reckon there's a lot of longevity in that fender, to be honest. It looks cool. It's got that going for it, and so, I don't know, whatever. I guess the main thing for me about this is these dropouts are very, very unique. I should probably take them out, but I'm not going to. You can sort of see how the cut is across there, meaning that you can pull that whole angle off and make your deck like a old school park shape deck, except you've got a 6.25 wide by 23 park shape deck, which means that you can put pegs on. So that's a pretty cool feature. It's a big thing in Europe. If you don't know that, just notice when you watch European scooter riders, like a lot of them will have like that old school kind of deck where they cut away at the back and they'll put pegs on it, and they'll have pegs on the front as well. 2 pegs on the front, 2 pegs on the back, which is, like I said, it's a sort of European thing. Like, you don't really see it in other places so much. Some people do it, but they're basically copying all those French riders, a lot of whom are, you know, like Bazid, like JD Rand, who's friggin' amazing. Again, we'll talk about him later. Those double peg riders, they're pretty cool. But yeah, you can do that with this deck. Whereas, like, you look at the next one I'm going to look at. Yeah, we'll jump right into it. Next one I'm going to look at here is this variation. Same sort of deck, basically. Built around the AOSHM range. The Brian Noyes version. Yeah, it's totally different dropouts, right? It's just got those same kind of plug dropouts, and so you've always got the boxed end with this one. So, you know, Noyes, I don't know where he's from in America, but he's American and not European, and therefore they've gone for that sort of difference in the deck. So I think that's really cool, actually. Right, cool things about the Brian Noyes deck as opposed to the Maxim Bazid deck. The Brian Noyes deck is 6.5 wide, as opposed to the Maxim Bazid deck being 6.25 wide. Both are 23 long. I sort of took the liberty of actually measuring all these myself just before we started this video. I call it 6.4, not 6.5, and I didn't, when I first saw that, because this was the first one I measured, I thought, well, maybe I'm not going to be that harsh on it. You know, maybe, 0.1 is, it's within reasonable, margin for error. But then I measured the rest of them, and the rest of them are like spot on what they say they are. So I had to hold it into account. 6.4 wide. All right? Don't be bullshitted by false advertising. Brian Noyes. Oh, this is the V2, by the way. It's actually written on the side, V2. It's basically the same as the V1, except for a couple of things. 1, it says V2. 2, there's a car on here. 3, has like a person with a mask. I'm not sure if that's a COVID thing or if that's that time where he jumped off that roof thing at the beginning of his video part and, basically all but died. And I don't know, because she looks like a nurse or something. I don't know. Maybe it's from that. Not quite sure the story behind the graphics. So that's another difference. And the width. Did I mention the width? Different from the original one. Not much else. I think it's a new fender. I'm pretty sure it's a new fender. Graphic on the bottom. It's a pretty impressive graphic. I don't know if I should critique the graphics. Maybe I will. I don't think it looks that great, to be honest. It's not printed amazingly well if I look at it, but I don't know. It's what he wanted, and it's kind of cool in its own way. It's sort of got that like 80s kind of vibe to it. Not exactly sure the inspiration's going on, but I don't know. I feel almost. I guess the whole thing is I'm a bit disappointed I can't paint on it. That's the whole thing. He's painted the whole thing. Didn't leave me any room. Look how much fucking room Maxim Buzid left me to paint around that fucking bone, right? Where's my fucking space to paint that? And then even you turn it over, and there's a car on it, and a fucking nurse on it or whatever, and I don't know. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just a symbol of American excess. Let's just cover the fucker in graphics. Like, you know, why not? All right. Anything else to talk about this one? Yes. Actually, I have a grievance with AO. I do have something to talk about this one. Put fucking spaces with your fucking decks. Like, seriously. Oh, this deck can fit 24 and 30 millimeter wide wheels. Well, no, it can't if you don't provide the fucking spaces, because otherwise I have to go and measure how much extra space I need to fit my wheels and go and fucking actually make spaces for it. When you got these fucking factories that produce metal parts, right? Why can't you just go cut off a few, like, you know, couple of millimeter things of metal that I can put on my axles and fit my damn wheels? Right? I do have a grievance with you. Put fucking spaces with your decks, please. And I've noticed that, like, you know, a few weeks after the decks go on sale, all of a sudden, oh, hey, there's like spaces available for sale that you can get. No! They're only like $3 or something. Like, I mean, how fucking money grubbing? Don't. Just fucking give us the spaces, please. All right, enough said. I like your decks. You're a good company. You support good people. I like both of those riders, and I like a lot of the riders on AO. Great stuff. Just fucking put the spaces in the fucking box. Like, just do it. Finally. I'm really looking forward to this, actually. All right. Feast your eyes on this, motherfuckers. This is the Aztec Jake Sorensen signature deck, just recently released. This thing is the equal largest scooter deck ever made commercially available. I happen to know of some others, but yeah, this is the largest one you can buy. This is 6.66 wide, and I measured it. It is, and I looked at it, and I'm like, is it 6.65 wide? Are they just fudging it? No. Is it 6.6 wide? Are they just fudging it like 0.01? No. It looks a little bit more than that. So yeah, I stand by it. It's 6.66 wide. They've measured it very well. All right. So this thing, besides being the biggest scooter deck, is also the signature deck of this man here, Jake Sorensen, who's named, and he's gone for a pretty red graphic. I think something I'd like to do is work out a really, really good blue transparent paint that I can spray over it and have a purple version. I'd like that a lot. I reckon that'd be really cool. So flat-ish bottom. They've got a channel running up the middle. Same thing as that native refined deck I was talking about. They might have caught some inspiration from Aztec. I noticed that the Siren version 3 also had that channel, flat bottom with the channel, as opposed to the version 2, which I'm still riding. It's going strong. Well done, Aztec. It's a good deck. Which has the cutout as opposed to the flat bottom with the channel. I like this a lot. It's brilliant. Now, something I've really always liked about Aztec is their brakes. That really jumped out at me. Now, that's not what they've got here. On the previous versions of the Aztec stuff, they had this, but it went up to about there. It was just a little bit longer, and it was called I think they called it a flex fender or something like that. It was basically just like a normal old school sort of some kind of metal brake, except it was like super hardened, so you could barely bend it into the wheel at all. So it was more like just a really, really big fender. And I don't know, I kind of like that. I've got a whole box full of them actually. I stocked up on them because I'll probably go back to them after the native fender. I hear the native fenders do bend eventually, but mine's going well at the moment, so I'm happy with it. But yeah, these are great. This one's actually smaller, so in being smaller, I've got my fingers. Being smaller, it's a bit more firm, as you can see, as I hurt myself against it. How's this attached? This is attached, oh yeah, just bolted in. No need to hold it. That's a good design. I'm happy they've gone with that this time. Pretty sure mine's the annoying old one where you got to hold them in, aren't they? This is good though. Let's have a look on the dropouts here. Now, got the same sort of dropouts they've been using for a while with the siren range. I'm not sure what they use with the other range. I only know the siren range because I've got the siren range. That same sort of one, I want to assume it's a little bit wider. I might have to actually check that, but the dropouts are actually a bit narrower than the deck. So I'm just looking over at mine and wondering if I could swap out dropouts, because if I can, then I could put a 12 standard kit on this, and I'm just thinking out loud here, but that might be a way to run 12 standard wheels with this deck without having to go the dodgy way of doing bearing spaces and all that kind of thing. Now, as you'll see here, this thing hanging off here isn't fucking, it's not nuts, but it looks like it a little bit. It's actually spaces, and Aztec came through. They've got the, I don't know which ones are which. Oh, that's for the 24s, the ones that are on there at the moment. 30mm hanging off there like that. And that's exactly what you need. Again, 12 standard option. Haven't seen it with Aztec for a little while. Aztec had a 12 standard option with the Siren version 2. Big reason why I ride it, because it's a 6 wide that you can ride 12 standard with without having to dick around with it too much. There hasn't been anything else other than native that does that. So if you want 12 standard and you don't want to fucking put, I don't know, I haven't done this, but I know people do it, putting the bearing spaces on an 8mm axle and then running 12 standard bearings on those. I don't know, I just imagine it's dodgy, and a few people have said to me that it's dodgy, but a few people have said to me that it's fine. I don't know. It sounds dodgy to me. I'd rather almost do anything else. But I'm just looking at it, no, it'll only fit an 8mm axle through it. Could drill it out. Could, but no, it'll only fit an 8mm axle through it. So you're either going to have to run it on some kind of spaces, or you'd have to drill it out if you wanted to go that. Now, the only reason why I'm sort of going on about it, I guess, is because looking at this, like I said, I've got 2 of them, being a bit of a collector, one to, might as well hold it up the right way, one to ride and one to keep, and I do want to ride it, and I ride 125mm wheels, because having a wider deck, if you're going to turn, you don't want it to scrape on the ground. I don't know if I suppose you can point it down there, can't you? You don't want it to scrape on the ground. So the higher up you are, obviously the more movement you've got. So bigger wheels are going to be better with something like this. If I turn really hard on a 6 wide on 125mm wheels, I can scrape it. So I reckon this is going to be interesting. But whatever, it's cool. It's just really, really, really cool. Jake Sorensen is an amazing rider. Go and check out his part. As we're recording this video, he might actually be releasing his latest part like right at this minute, as far as I know. I was just looking at Instagram, not sure what the time is, but it's tomorrow, and that was either today or yesterday, depending on what time it is. It's probably around midnight by now. So yeah, another Sorenson part. Go and check it out. Should be awesome, as per usual with him. All right, other features. Anything we haven't covered? Actually, there is one last thing I'd like to cover. That's the head tube and the neck tube of this. Let's have a look. We've got just a nice clean weld around it. This is hollow. I don't know if we can see that actually if you look in through that way. Follow it down. You can see that it is hollow, and this head tube actually has like sort of cut out little fluted sections that save weight, which is really cool. It's kind of a new design. As I said, it is equally the largest scooter deck that's ever been made. On top of being 6.66 wide, it's 24 long. Only other 24 long scooter that's ever come out was the Proto... Is it the Space Deck? It's a Proto something. Whatever the Proto decks were, they had 24 long as a variation, but they only had 5 wides. They never had anything wider than that. So this is pretty cool in that regard. Now, the other deck that was the 6.66 was the Logan Fuller deck. That was the original 6.66 wide, and that had a different kind of head tube to this one. It wasn't hollow. It was sort of more like that earlier when I was showing you that inset sort of design. Can't quite remember what the head tube was. I imagine it was probably a lot like my Siren or something like that. Never actually got my hands on one. Oh, I wish I had one. That would be very nice, but I don't. So I can't really comment on what it was like. This though is a new design for Aztec in the neck sort of region of the deck. It would be interesting to see how it goes for that, because yeah, I'm not sure. Like I say, I really like that more solid, firmly welded sort of thing. I don't know about the hollow thing. I don't know. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it works, because having this sort of width of deck can only be a lot of fun, I imagine. So, hopefully it holds up for a long time. Now, having said that, I'll come to the end of the decks that are on the table. Let's do the Honourable Mentions. So, Honourable Mention number 1, as we said, Native Refined deck. Now available in some interesting colours, actually. And some interesting signature models. They've got the refined Kevin Austin, the refined Kai Saunders, and a couple of, sort of interesting colours. Other ones, TSI Satellite, very nice deck as well. I think the main one that I sort of want to mention, before I do, somebody actually mentioned on Instagram today, you're missing the Urban Art range. Urban Art, I like the Sprawl because I like Max Peters. Good sort of old school Australian writer who's been around forever. I sort of wonder what he's doing nowadays. I haven't seen anything from Max Peters for a long time. I suppose he's on Urban Art. We'll see something from him soon. Cool. See you soon, Max Peters. Besides the Urban Art stuff, I really, really, really wanted to make mention of the Proto line. The reason there isn't one sitting here is because basically they came out like yesterday, the new line or something like that, so I don't have one and I haven't ordered one yet. The 5.5 by 22 22.5 came out yesterday, and the whole special thing that I think needs to be made mention of is the fact that the deck is separate from the neck. And I sort of like was alluding to that the whole way through, of having these welded necks, and talking about like the strength and how does the weld hold up. With the proto decks, it doesn't matter. Because, I mean, if you snap it, doesn't matter. Just take the neck out, get a new deck, put it in. Bolt it back in. And apparently, it's every bit as strong as welding it. And then instead of going, well, I've just paid $300 for a deck, snapped it, now I've got to go and buy another $300 deck. You're going, all right, you paid $300 for a deck and a neck. You snapped it, well, now you only need to go pay $100 and replace the deck. It's been a thing they've had for ages, like I said, but they've only come in 5 wide, and people have complained about it for a long time. Why aren't they innovating? Why aren't they innovating? Actually, they have been. And nobody sort of noticed because they were so concerned with basically width as the evolution of the scooter deck. I think actually it really does boil down to that neck, because that's sort of what snaps most of the time if something's going to snap. It's that weld at the neck, because you're sort of like pulling and pushing with the bars. I don't know, it's very, very smart. And I don't know why anybody hasn't ripped him off. And I mean, he must have it so well patented or something that no one can touch it, which is, brilliant. Good on him. I honestly think they'll be the future of scooter decks. And I was talking to Andrew Broussard. If you don't know him, he's the founder of Proto, the guy in charge. He just says all this sort of stuff that's sitting here, it's going to become just collector's items. He says, no, they're doing it wrong. If any of those things survive, which most of them won't, which most of them don't, let's face it, we, as riders destroy these fucking things. That's why, that's why they come and they go, and once they're gone, they're gone. But that's what he's saying. He's saying, like, we're going to look back to this time where people welded the necks to the deck. What a fucking stupid thing to do. He says it's like welding like fucking skateboard trucks to the deck. What would be the point? Can't be one piece. It makes sense in a way. So, I don't know. If that's something that other companies could do something about, that'd be really interesting. I don't know how well protected he's got the system. He calls it TDI. Can't remember what it even fucking stands for. Tongue lock deck interface or something like that. Anyway, but it is very, very clever. It's just basically a dovetail with a couple of bolts in the side of it, and it stands every bit as good as a weld. So anyway, I'm really looking forward to checking those out. They're coming out in extra lengths and widths soon, so that's why I'm holding off. We're going to aim for the biggest as usual, and he has put out a diagram that has 5 wide and 6 wide, 7 wide and 8 wide. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm happy to try. You make it, I'll ride it. So I reckon that's about all I can say about this stuff. So hopefully I've, covered the topic reasonably well, and we can put it to rest. I'll catch you good people next time. See you around.